yeah, we're staring at a screen, but it's the only reason we would be able to connect in this day and age, even without COVID. Like are you in Melbourne? And I'm in Idaho. So yay, we get to have a portal of connection.
I know. And that's it, on my more enlightened days, I try to look for the positives and do all that spiritual shit, be grateful. And that some days you just can't be fucked though, eh? It's just like, I just want to have a shit fit today and be shit and not care and be, whatever.
Yeah. What if that is the spiritual practice? Like it is just what is. What if there's no resistance, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. I call it the divine fuck it. Oh, yeah. Fuck it.
I have been embracing the divine fuck it, let me tell you. Because that is that head fuck, right? Because the spiritual practice is to always, just accept, let things be what they are. Nothing's good, bad, right, or wrong. But some days you just want to have a good old shit fit and a sook.
Yes.
And some periods of your life, you might do what I did and just, go on a detox program and drink a bottle of wine every night and then run 8Ks the next day.
That was badass, right? Yeah. So a bottle of wine and then running 8K for how many days?
11 straight.
Yeah. And what was your experience? Like, what did you discover from the experiment?
Because it's like looking back on another person, because I can't imagine doing that right now. But in the moment when I was there, I couldn't imagine not doing it.
Yeah.
There was so much charge because I think it was the 6th lockdown we went into, which was about 15 months into the whole palaver. And I got through the first 5 lockdowns pretty well. I mean, we were working together and stuff. I had focus. I was like, yeah, cool. Just get on with stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I know something about the 6th lockdown, it just threw me. And I think it was because it just, because so much of my life and the people I love are outside of Australia. And I think something just went off in my brain that like, they're just moving further away from me. It's like seeing them on the horizon and they're waving and then the announcement came through. And it's like they kind of moved further away. And I just lost my shit. And there's this charge of energy like running through me. It was like lightning. It was so much. And like, my body couldn't hold it. It was like, a combination of like anger, frustration, and just like all these sorts of, confusion, hopelessness. And I think, the wine was to numb it because like I was just feeling it so intensely.
Right.
And then the running was to try and discharge it, I think. But I knew when I was doing it, I'm like, this ain't fucking healthy. Like, we can't do this forever. But the inner voice was like, we have to. It's like, I would try it down at night and just go, well, let's not do it. Let's get up and be healthy and do yoga and whatever. But the inner voice was like, fuck it.
Right.
Yeah. So it was funny because then to your point earlier about non-resistance, when I surrendered to it and just went, that's what we're doing. And I'm going to let you do it, body, until you feel like not doing it.
Yeah.
Just I let that go. I just woke up one Sunday, I think it was, and I went, yeah, we're done. And then literally going onwards, I haven't touched a drop and have just getting up and exercising 2 hours a day. I've been doing like dancing. There's he's an American fitness instructor called the Fitness Marshal, and he does these ridiculously camp sort of dance routines to like popular culture songs like Ed Sheeran, Shape of You, and Rihanna, Bitch Better Have My Money. And I've been doing that for like an hour in the morning, and then just doing like sort of, I guess, animal flow movements. Yeah. To sort of work out my surfing fitness, given I haven't been in the water for 2 bloody years. And the flow just came back. Like, it's just so how you kind of just, it transmutes all of a sudden. And then you just kind of look back on yourself like you had happy gas on. You know, when you go to the dentist and they put a happy gas mask on you and you're like, oh, but then it wears off really quickly. And then you're like, what the fuck just happened? Okay, well, okay, sure, I'm back.
Right.
So really, that was a bizarre experience.
Yeah. No, and what I love about it though is like, this is a theme that's been coming up a lot this week, the last couple of weeks, well, always, but especially recently. All my clients, everybody I talk to, even myself, it's like the next level of trust yourself, because there's an inner intelligence that knows what's needed. And even with, like you say, spiritual practice, we condition ourselves to be like, no, I have to think positively, get up and do yoga. Like, these are the things. And the intelligence is like, maybe, but not today, right? And so it's the radical trust yourself that is the spiritual practice. And it might look completely different than some Instagram post of like what you're supposed to be, whatever, you know? So I just love that you experimented with it, and the intelligence guided you every step. And now we're done. And then like, it's never random, and it's really trustable.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny because the ego always kind of comes in and sort of tries to hijack it. Because like I literally started doing my course, my fellowship at Oxford University during that period as well. So I was like, you know, jumping off calls, you know, talking about the economics of mutuality and purpose and reorchestrating ecosystems to deliver value, and then just going, all right, now I'm going to get fucked up. So I think there's an incongruence. The ego starts going, yeah, but you know, you can't be doing that sort of stuff and be, you know, someone that cares about, you know, the humanity and the planet and doing business better. Like, this isn't the type of person that does that. And then, but the inner voice is like, yeah, you are. And the bottle, yeah, what are you doing? I'm thirsty.
Right. Well, so that raises then the next question. What was your experience when you were doing those conversations? Did you feel like your authentic self? Did you feel cloudy because you were hungover from the night before? Did you feel relaxed and be like, I'm good? Like what? And I'm sure it was different every day, but what was it like?
No, it's funny because I absolutely love what they're doing. And it's like finding your crew, right? When you're with your crew, if you just that, and it's so true, like we have these reservoirs of power within us that we're just not tapping into. And it's funny, yeah, because the whole day leading up to doing the module and stuff, I'd be really lethargic and, you know, had the CBFs for even just, you know, going and getting a coffee. But then when I was on the call, and it wasn't anything performative, it was generally because I am so interested in it. It's like your real self kind of like pushes through all the rubble and goes to the front, sits in the front and goes, all right, what are we doing? And I just felt I was so present and so focused and so aligned and so energized. But then it was like when it transitioned out, it was like the body went, okay, let's just get fucked up now and like get the work done. So it's almost like there's this, I don't know, it's like a revolving sort of door in there about how your energy sort of just shifts in phases, sort of like the seasons.
It does.
Right? That's one of the learnings that have come that I've sort of really I think haven't acknowledged in my life is that everything is cycles, and you don't have to be happy all the time. You don't have to be motivated all the time. You don't have to be doing shit all the time. Like, you need that lull, like whether it's intentionally crashing and burning yourself or just letting yourself rest. Like we as humans, the planet, everything needs cycles, right? And I just haven't really acknowledged the importance of that until now.
Yeah, I love that you brought that in, because even as you're speaking, and again, I'm thinking about your experiment there with the running and the wine and the conversations, like even microcycles within a day, you know, right? And because there's, you know, the bigger cycles, and there's the phases of life and the seasons and all that. But every day there's this cycle too of like, wow, my energy is here and now it's cycling through this. And, you know, I think most of us are completely unconscious and we don't pay attention and we don't track it. I certainly don't. But there are certain rhythms that are kind of predictable, and the body does go through different energies. You know, there's ancient traditions that have known that for thousands of years, and we're all like, la, 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 no, we don't do it that way. Get on Zoom, get on your Gregorian calendar and make shit happen. Like, right.
Totally. Because I think it's even to those microcycles, like, again, I think it's the ego or our mind just always trying to hijack you and overly control where you direct your energy for the sake of productivity. Because like I used to get so angry with myself, I'd sit down and go, right, we're going to do this, we're going to write this prop now, blah blah blah, and my body just goes, oh, we're not. And then we end up reorganizing the fridge, and the fridge is amazing now, like all the salad pull out drawers. And I'm like, it's 11 till 2 p.m. That was a time we could have been doing a lot of work and getting some props out, but we've reorganized the fridge. That's totally responsible for a 43-year-old Jen.
All right. And that's the voice that's like, I'm going to make you feel like shit no matter what you did, no matter what. Right. Yeah.
But organizing the fridge was so in flow. Like everything was just like so easy and intuitive. I'm like, oh, that's got to go there. That's got to go there.
Right.
And then it's funny because then when you actually do get to the work, if you do surrender to that, because I got to a point where I was like, fuck it, that's what the body wants to do. That's what the body wants to do.
Yeah.
You get to a point, if you start to surrender to that more, it's almost like it goes, oh, she let me do what I wanted. Like
yes.
my energy wanted to flow. And then the stuff that I thought was going to take me 6 hours, 8 hours to do, I did in like an hour and a half.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of channeled and came down and you're just like boom, boom, boom. And you go back and you look at it and you question it and you're like, fuck, is that right? It only took me an hour and a half. And then you're like,
right. And then when the flow is on, it's so good. Like you just know there's really good stuff coming through. Just let it come, let it come. And then I don't know about you, but I could feel it just like complete.
Yeah.
And then walk away. Like go just do anything else, but don't try to force it, stay there. Right.
Totally. It's like watching a firework disappear. You're like, oh, and it's gone. Okay, we need to leave and do something else now.
Yeah.
You force it to keep going. And you're like,
oh, it's torture.
And you're like, oh no, it's gone.
It's torture, right? I know. I read an article once by Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist. And he was yeah, right. And he wrote about his writing process. And he's like, here's how I write. Morning, wake up, really good intention. I'm going to start at 9 or I'm going to start at 11 or whatever. Faff around, go get the mail, talk to somebody, go have lunch, beat up on myself. Like, fuck, I was going to start at 9 or 11 or whatever it was. And then finally, after a whole day of just fucking around, 5 o'clock or something, like, oh, and now I write. And then I churn it out and I go late into the night with the intention tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to start at 9 and then do it again every single day. And so when I read that and realized, oh, right, this is part of artistry is learning to trust your own rhythm and trust your own way of creation, even though it makes no sense. And it by all these other internalized standards, we judge it. But what if that's just how we do it? And the organism knows, and that's all that's needed. Oh, well, in that case, fuck all the rules, go do whatever, because you trust yourself, right? So it's still a process, certainly for me to find like, what is that and consistently be in that. But it's incredible, like you said, just giving over to it and be like, oh, that's what I felt like doing. And it actually is incredibly more productive because the fridge gets cleaned, the laundry gets done, the email gets done, all the things are put away. Like everything is taken care of because you're not thinking.
It is, but it's really, even though once you get the awareness for it, it's still really hard to override the program, right? Because the system that we've been brought up in is a 9-to-5 system because it was created for factory workers to create factory workers. Right. So like we still, even though I know that, I'm like, that's just how the creative energy works. It comes when it's ready, not the calendar that's made for production line factory workers, but you still have to consciously override it.
Yeah.
I think I will for the rest of my life. Like,
I think we all will.
Get up, just let flow with where your energy naturally wants to go, because there's a higher intelligence guiding you. It's not that you're being lazy or that you're trying to procrastinate. I think that's the override, to really check in with yourself. Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. I remember, speaking of procrastination, I used to be so hard on myself for being a procrastinator because I do everything at the last minute when it needs to be done. And there was a part of me that could see like, well, I shouldn't be judging myself because it kind of works for me. But there was all this narrative in the collective around, especially, women entrepreneurs, is procrastination your thing? And, this is earlier in my business when I was still more vulnerable to all these experts' voices of how you're supposed to do business and all that. And procrastination was like bad, like, you don't want that. And then I remember reading Adam Grant's book called Originals. And in Originals, there's a whole chapter on procrastination and the intelligence of procrastination. That's been years ago, but completely flipped procrastination for me into a non-issue. Just I create how I create and I do it what needs to be done, and it's always really good. It comes out like there is no thing that should have been done sooner, because usually the creative process for me, the intelligence of it is always working. And so there's this buildup that's happening even when I think I'm not doing anything. These breadcrumbs are being planted. This is falling off the shelf. This conversation is happening, and the whole tapestry is weaving itself. And then all of a sudden, it's time to create, and it's all there, and it can happen in a really fast download. Stay up all late one night, and it's done, kind of thing, because all of the elements were there. And if I were to label that as procrastination, I would miss all those clues along the way, and I would just be in existential torture trying to write something that doesn't even have all the ingredients yet, right?
Yeah, I've never heard it explained that way, but that's a really, really lovely analogy about like all the threads sort of being planted for the tapestry to be woven, because it is like that. It's not linear.
It's really not.
Iterative, and it's very integrative, and it's sort of invisible until you can see it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a really nice way to put it. And I think as well, I mean, the way you work as well in terms of focusing on play and bringing the joy into your life in order to manifest the stuff needs to be normalized, because like I'm so sick of seeing shit in the media about that glorifies the hustle. There's kind of, you got to slog it out and all that sort of stuff. There's a narrative that's playing out for entrepreneurs or anyone that's working, that unless you like do the hard yards, you won't get anywhere.
Right.
And it misses the alignment step about like, is it actually who you are, and is it actually what you want to do, and is that what you want to do it for? It just goes straight to the like, you got to suffer. It's like all of a sudden when we're in business, like, you need to suffer in this lifetime to benefit in the next.
Right? No, exactly.
So it's a method of control. It's just telling people if you don't work, it's evidence of industry. That means you're not worthy. You're busy.
Exactly.
You're not busy, you're not worthy. You're not working hard enough. It mustn't be of value. And I'm like, that sounds like a control mechanism to me, because like I know how I work. I'm like, we're not busting our chops. We're having a fucking great time with amazing people.
Exactly.
At the same time, I'm like,
that's right. So I love that you brought it up, because there's like two elements that pop into mind from here. One is, I don't know if you think in terms of morphic or morphogenetic fields, but just the energetic matrix of the collective energy soup that we live in. It's pretty entrenched with that messaging, even independently of what we're hearing through media or webinar after webinar and Facebook ad after Facebook ad. Like all of that noise is just an expression of this collective matrix energetically. So there's kind of this energetic fabric or construct that we are born into, that are the organism of our body kind of sculpts itself to, because that's how we survive. That's the ocean in which we're swimming, right? And then there's more of the tactical or strategic side, which is that those voices of, here's how you do it, I'm the expert, I'll do this and do this and do this and be really productive, and productivity is the measure of success, kind of thing. Those are also the noisiest voices, right? And so as I've been in my, right. So as I've been over here with my message of play, there is not an intrinsic drive to be noisy. Like that's just not there. That's not in here. So I have my own way of bringing it into the world with conversations and people, but it's not like this hype thing that's going to be like, all right, I'm now going to dominate the world with my biggest, loudest message of play, because that's not actually congruent energy. So my message and my work and how I live and play ends up like water trickling into the nooks and crannies of readiness, where people are like calling it forward from their soul. And it happens through the backdoor channels, kind of magically, or really magically, not through the big systematized noise making that we've gotten habituated to whatever influence, or it's noise. It's just noise.
It is. And I think it's so easy as business owners to get sucked into it, to thinking, because, you know, that message is coming from some very intelligent, very experienced people going, this is the way you got to do it. And, you know, I certainly got sucked into it for a little bit. But then, you know, I think you can tell that it's not congruent with your energy, as you say, because you're not making any headway with that approach. You're like, fuck. It's not working. I'm not getting clients, you know.
That's right. You just have to be honest about your own actual experience. Right. Really, is this working for me? Right.
Yeah. And I notice, and look, it's not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some of those teachings are valid and they're effective, but I think you have to, with anything, like any teacher, any expert, you've got to take, coach or whatever, you've got to take what's right for you.
Yeah.
Through the felt sense, not the rational brain, through the felt sense, even if it doesn't make sense, and then go, I'll take that, but I'll leave all of that. Because there were parts of that experience that I'm referencing that were very useful and have helped me get to the next stage. But there are other parts of it, 95% of it, that were actually incongruent with who I was, what I believed in. And it's not right for other people. It wasn't right for me. But I think because I was coming into that from a time of just desperation and hopelessness, you kind of just gravitate to a confident voice, right? But I think the lesson there from that experience, like you have to tune in here first and then match the code before you decide what you move forward with. Because, like, you know, working with you was incredible, like, and it just literally catapulted, you know, clients straight away after we did the labs thing. And, you know, I went on a hiatus and bought inline skates. I've got 2 new surfboards arriving today. I bought a gift to myself, one for each year I've been in lockdown.
That's so good. That's so good, Jen.
We actually get released. But like, I went through a period of literally about 2 months where I did fuck all on the business.
I remember
little bits. I was working on the work piece with the research, the global research intelligent paper, but that's not a paid, that's a love job. I literally did nothing on the business for 2 months, and then all of a sudden, all the clients just went boom, 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 from Hong Kong, London, to from Australia. I'm like, I did not send a fucking email. People just called me. And it's like incredible now. And I love them all. Like I would literally have all of them over to my house for a bottle of wine.
Right?
Totally. And I think that was the shift, is that I was trying to appeal to people that I wouldn't necessarily want in my orbit unless there was a financial transaction.
Right.
But shifting that mindset to go like, not to the extent that, you know, if they called me and said, I've killed someone, can you help me hide the body, that I'd go and help them? But, you know, I certainly wouldn't want to spend time with them, you know, personally, get to know them, and, you know, more like that's the shift. And it's become so much easier because then the sales pitch and the trying to convince them about you and, you know, push them over the line, that all goes away. It's like like even the last client that I just signed on, if you want to use the matrix speak, or that I'm going to work with and partner with in the next year probably, we just had conversations. I didn't do one fucking proposal deck. We just talked to it.
No.
Here's where I'm at. I mean, he's like, oh, that's not what I was thinking. I'm like, what about blah, blah, blah? It's like, yeah, cool. Can you just make that into a prop now? And I'll send that off to let everyone know. But it's already approved and it's done.
Exactly.
And I 2 weeks, you know, doing headshots of myself and like getting testimonials together. I mean, that'll be there in the final prop, but I wasn't using the content lead to prove myself.
Exactly.
So more about the transmission, the energy transmission between he and I.
Yeah.
Whether it, like, we were in the same frequency. And I'm like, fuck this, I'm doing it from now on.
Exactly.
I'm gonna get on a pole and dance like a stripper and go, please, put $1 in a G-banger, like.
But can you?
Or you don't.
Right. Can you get how? I know you get this, but just feeling into the matrix, where from inside the slog, the mind and the programming says, yeah, but that's not possible. I can't trust that. Right. But
very loud voice as well.
It's very loud voice. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And then you always are bombarded with voices and evidence that reinforce that story. Right. But because you did the divine fuck it, and did whatever you felt like for as long as you felt like it. That is the frequency raising space creation, so that the essence of you could actually have space to beam your light out into the world, like beep, 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 here's the real me. Because before it didn't have enough space. It was like, I'm trying to be somebody that I think I should be, right? And now it's just like, oh man, here, I'm the lighthouse. This is me. Yeah. And now it's going out into the quantum field, and the people that are a vibrational match do show up because they cannot. It's just how it works. It's just how it works.
I mean, I didn't know that's what I was doing, but
no, exactly, right?
I'm glad that there was a secret intelligence operating behind the whole time.
Huge. Yeah. Because the whole time you were out there going, wow, I'm not really doing anything, and probably having the voices going, is this okay? Shouldn't I be doing something? I don't know. Fuck it, whatever. But there's this constant kind of noise when in fact, like, what if you could just go and do it again next time you feel called to do it and enjoy it fully, because there's no need for the noise of doubt, right?
And now knowing that, I mean, I absolutely take no credit for that. That was my intention when I was doing it. I was literally just going, fuck it. I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to do it. But it was amazing to, once you actually see it happen, and the people were calling that I hadn't spoken to in 5 years.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like if I was doing my Dream 100, they wouldn't have been on my list.
Right.
In terms of like, they were just so far off the periphery, and they're probably going to be one of my biggest clients now. And that just came in out of nowhere.
That's right.
But you have that experience to go, oh, and understanding what you've just said now, going, oh, so that's what was happening when I was doing fuck it. It was like you're raising your vibration. So therefore you're calling in the stuff that's right meant for you. Yes. But I think you can't do it with thinking, you can't do it with the intention of I'm going to do the divine fuck it, so then something can come in. You just have to say, I don't know, it'll be that or better. So I think you can't try and control the outcome.
No. And of course the internal experience feels really scary, because like, I'm not doing the things that I'm supposed to do to get results. You know, what if it doesn't work? Like, all of the stuff comes up, but it's all just coming up as an invitation to hold it differently. Like, yep, here's fear, here's concern, here's worry, here's anxiety, here's self-judgment. Like, here's all that stuff. Like, flag it, I can hold that and go surfing or whatever it is, you know, too. But that the fundamental shift that you're describing is learning to create life and business through frequency management instead of time management, or energy of, you know, where am I doing my productivity management, right? So frequency management is a thing, and it requires a lot of space and a lot of joy and a lot of fuck it and a lot of like, what do I feel like doing? Because that is how you allow that frequency of your essence to amplify. Like, it's a waveform and it's usually like pretty suppressed. And now here comes amplifying. So you're putting out a bigger signal into the field. Frequency management is the, you know, paradigm of the future, basically. And most of us are like, I don't trust that. That didn't work for me in kindergarten. That did not work for me in 4th grade. You know, we got in big trouble if we were like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want. No, you won't.
Love that frequency management. Yeah. It makes sense, right? It's actually grounded in physics.
Right.
It's kind of daft, right? How we've just constructed this like paradigm that we think is productive and effective, because some dude wanted to make a lot of factory workers for the world, instead of actually deferring to nature's intelligence and the laws of physics, that everything is frequency, right? Like, we know this, but we don't know it, if that makes sense.
Right. We'll study it in the lab between 9 and 5 without a vacation. That's how we're like relating to the knowledge.
Like, when you say it like that, I was like, as you were talking, I'm like, that's just fucking common sense. Of course it's about getting yourself here so that you kind of are on the right frequency with the crew that you want to be with. Because if you're down here going, oh, I want to work with, there's an opportunity to work with this motherfucker, but, you know, they're going to be painful, you're going to get more of those motherfuckers.
And let me just effort my way into figuring out how to manipulate a connection with somebody so I can get the thing that I think they have that I think I want.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I agree, because that's your point. That's the message from the soup, right? Everyone's telling you to do that. And it's like, we need to talk about email marketers and consent, because I think we need consent in our inboxes as well, because the way they just sort of launch in and then repeatedly keep going after you, I'm like, would you do that to a girl in a pub, like a bar? Would you go up to her repeatedly and go, oh, you didn't respond to the last time I spoke to you. Can you do it this time? I'm like, you fucking serious, mate? It's like, just because we're in the digital world doesn't mean your manners go away. Like, if I haven't responded, it's fuck.
Right?
Our brains, because we've hidden all of these tactics under like an accepted business practice. And I'm like, you're still one human communicating to another human. It used to be through my inbox, but this is not consent. This is
that's right.
Out of my virtual world.
Yeah, that's right. So I love that you brought that in. There's so much in there, because I'm jumping tracks for a moment. It just reminded me of a parenting book I read years and years ago when my son was really small, about children and child development and what happens. Like, how do we condition ourselves out of our knowingness? And one of the examples was related to ethics and morality, where it was like witnessing a bully on the playground or something beating somebody up. And every child has in them this knowingness, that's not right. That's not right. Yeah. But how many actually speak up and say, that's not right, stop that? Because already by childhood, we've been conditioned into not speaking up, accepting certain behaviors as normal, even if they're entirely violating everything in our being that knows that's not how we treat each other. And so there's this culture of silence, conditioned silence, that we just allow all of it. And so by the time we get to this age and stage in our business development, it's so normalized. It's like, where do we even start to say, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right to me. That doesn't feel good to me. That's not right. And decide to do it differently, right? So anyway, all of that is just speaking to what you were saying about manners and just basic sense of relating to each other, because most people have just gotten so conditioned to relate to each other in non-authentic ways, because that's what our society is. We'll just all wear masks inside, and now overtly in the COVID era, like, no, we'll just wear masks and pretend to be somebody that we're not all the time. So the liberation of the essence is, it's a bigger conversation. But that was one of the things I noticed when we ended up last year in the beginning stages of COVID, and I watched the mask phenomenon just take over. And I remember going, oh my God, it's our internal state now becoming explicit. Like, we all wear masks. We just never could see them before. Like, joke's on us. Like, you want to see the collective insanity we live? It's now being visible. Yeah. How do we want to respond? Yeah. Right? Anyway, so much there.
Yeah, but I think it's so true. And I think, that's what you were helping me with a lot as well last year, about that visibility piece, because I think that to your point, like, it's not a congruent energy to be loud, but you can be visible without being loud. And I think more people need to start calling out the bullshit that they're seeing in the matrix, because I think you're right. Everyone innately is feeling it, but they're looking around and going, no one's saying anything, so it mustn't be that bad. So that's kind of my calling, is that I don't particularly like being visible and saying the things that I'm saying, but I feel like I have to, because it'll give courage. I certainly have gotten the courage from seeing other people talk about certain topics. So that's kind of my, I guess, contribution to it. But like, the leadership that we've got going on at the moment is fucking unacceptable. Like, looking at, I mean, we won't talk about the US. I mean, that's just obvious. I mean, you guys are right now, but I mean, you guys fucked the pooch for about 4 years, right? So like, and by the way, we're not getting, like, we used to say in Australia, at least we're not like America, but now even we're going like, oh, that was the one thing we could hold on to. We weren't as bad as you guys. but like we're fast losing that kind of card to play. Like we've got someone here called Scotty from marketing running our country, who actually screwed the pooch on the Pfizer deal in February, you know, so we could have been out of lockdown. I'm not pro or anti-vaccine, and that's a whole other different convo that I'm not even going to get into. But like, yeah, screwed the pooch on that. He's had one of his staffers was accused of sexual misconduct, quite severe sexual misconduct. That's just gone away. No one's talking about it now. Like, it's just a nothing. Like, there's been no repercussions for him and stuff. I'm like, are we really going to sit here? Like, if we vote this prick back in, I've got serious questions about humanity. But I think that's why it's not about being aggressive, but it's actually just calling out the shit show. And I think that's why so many people, like, I've come from corporate, like, you know, and I've seen guys that have acted absolute and said and done appalling things, illegal, and yet have still been receiving promotions, more equity shares, put up as, you know, published articles in newspapers as like top 40 of this, blah, blah, blah. And the people that know what's really going on must be looking at this going and just surrendering, going, this is the world we live in, it's fucked. Shit people rises to the top. So I think there's a job for the people, you know, that feel a calling to say something but don't want to. Like, you have to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There's no way to do it, but you have to. Like, we're all, like, I refuse to say we're all in this together because I want to punch everyone that says that. But I think you have to find your way to do your part. And I think that's like sometimes why we feel so miserable. It's not that we're not getting the clients we want or anything like that. It's not, we're just not being ourselves.
Exactly.
Expressing who we are.
Yeah.
What we came here to do.
That's exactly it. Yeah. There's, so right on. Oh, so many directions I want to go with that.
We'll work through them all.
I know. So that expression of being who we're really here to be. If we come back to the frequency management kind of construct, there's the fuck it where you go do whatever you feel like. That's, in my framework, kind of a recalibration to, this is what it just feels like to be me, and listen to my intrinsic knowing. Like, we have to have those retraining periods for ourselves, and we just let ourselves go do whatever. But then the inverse of it is doing sometimes what we don't necessarily feel like doing. Like, this stage is doing what we feel like doing. And then this stage is, I don't really feel like saying stuff because it's not popular in the matrix of everyone else's beliefs. But I need to say something because otherwise I'm suppressing some part of who I actually am that actually wants to be expressed. So there has to be this cycle of energy that flows through the whole cycle, and it can't just be one or the other, right? Because we see it on the other side too. There are people who are incredibly expressive and really clear about what they're saying in the world and being outspoken, but they're not taking time to replenish and regenerate and do the just what I call receptivity stage of listening. And so that then has its own manifestations, health, relationships, all sorts of stuff happens there. So we have to be attuned to both input and output of our own organism for us to experience the flow that is possible, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what you're so brilliant at as well, is that you help guide people through that wobbly part. Because even though you don't want to do it, there's something in you that knows that you do.
Yeah,
right. With what you've got to do, like when I was doing all the interviews and stuff like that. But I think that's what you're so brilliant at, is guiding people through that shaky kind of, it's like that Indiana Jones movie where he's got to jump through all the rocks to get to the other side, otherwise all the spears will
right. That's such a great
you gotta go, but you don't want to. You're like, oh fuck, but it's over there. Yes, I need that to save the, not that we're saving the world, but in terms of like, that's your next step in terms of your evolution or where your path or whatever you want to call it that. But you don't want to have to jump these things and have spears potentially jab you in the head. So that's where you're brilliant at, like, helping people in that next bit of spiral, because it's not like you're forcing them down anywhere they don't want to go. They're like, I do want to go there, but it looks like shit. Like it's peppered with lines. Please help me. Have the courage to go through it.
Exactly.
Going there.
It's like the lubricant for creation, because we, myself included, we have this built-in static and friction that's like anticipating the knives and sabers, even though we can't see them. Like, I'm not going to run the gauntlet of full self-expression because I know what's coming. So what can we do to lubricate the passage and just jump from stone to stone? This is where the play comes in. Like, what is that to gamify that? And that's different for every person, of course. But if it is just a bunch of stepping stones and you're like, like you're focused in a way that you have to be focused to hop on the stones, right? It shifts everything to be in the playful state of creation. And of course, I always call it the laughter lubricant. The more we're laughing, it lubricates everything, because it can't not. It shifts the biochemistry, the energy, the emotional state, the mental state, all of it. So the more we're laughing and playing, the less friction there is, and the more we can get our stuff out in the world. So it is necessary.
Yeah. Your laughter therapy is great.
Even just saying it makes me laugh.
I know, right? It's like, but people don't believe you. They're like, what do you mean laughing helps? I'm like, how can it not help? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Awesome. I can't take life seriously anymore. And I think that's the other thing, because like we're trained, particularly in corporate and stuff, that you need to be this stoic, sagely presence of, infallibility. It's like, I think what I've learned is that you can be a total fuck up and be incredible at the same time.
That's right.
Embracing all of you. It's like some days I'm awesome and I'm really put together, and some days I'm a fucking hot mess. And it doesn't mean that the awesome leaves. It's the awesome's just tucked up in a shelf for the day. Like it's not on the front seat of the theater.
Yeah. This is so good, Jen. It's like, what if we had never heard of being professional?
I reckon we'd be so happy.
Right? What if that was not a thing?
Yeah. I look back on my corporate wear and I'm like, fuck, what was I wearing and getting around in for like 12 hours a day? That's like, it's literally like the modern day version of a soldier's uniform. It's like, how do I signal to the world that I conform? Because I think it's positioned to us, it shows that you belong, and this is that you deserve.
That's right.
It's actually like you're just signaling your people.
Yeah, that's right. It's the prison of professionalism.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. Yeah. So we are in, from my perspective, we're in this opportunity. There is no guarantee, but it's an opportunity for the values shift in each one of us to be expressed in the world, in the collective, in society. And societal values shifts take time, and it's a lot of turbulence and a lot of conflict that usually precedes it. If we look historically and just through, evolution in general, in the history of our planet, really. So we're in this place where everything is being shaken up. There's a lot more friction. There's things that are falling apart to reveal something else underneath. And it's this opportunity, really, for our values to be stripped away from what we thought was important to what's actually in our hearts. So that undercurrent, from where I sit, it's always there. And we are then being bombarded with all of the chaos that sucks our attention into, like, oh, fuck, there's something really wrong right now, when in fact it's so right. It is so ridiculously right. But again, there's no guarantee either. Like, if we don't show up and step up and speak up, who knows what trajectory we're on. But the more of us that are liberating ourselves into playing with the creative force of life itself, we got to live the experiment and see what happens for ourselves, for our families, for society. Like, we've nothing to lose at this point. Nothing.
We're in the bottom of the barrel.
That's right.
We can only go up people. But, you know, but I think, and I love your perspective on, because like, yes, I think that absolutely that's where we should all be at, in that this frequency of play and stuff like that. But when you're on the journey to sort of, I guess, connecting with yourself and not knowing what your own frequency is, there are patches where you do, they call it dark night of the soul for a reason. Like,
yeah, that's right.
To be like transmuted and stuff. Like, how do you recommend, and I certainly have experienced that more than once in the last 2 years, and I think it's uncomfortable because like your natural instinct is to run away from that because you don't want to feel it. But I've learned now from going through multiple cycles of that is that the only way out is through, and you got to sit with it. You have to sit with it. Like, it's, you do. What's your advice in terms of getting through that so that you can cycle back into the play frequency? Because I think a lot of people, and certainly from other spiritual teachers that I've had in the past, I try and just keep you on this almost Pollyanna type spirituality. It's like, don't feel it, like almost like Elsa from Frozen. Don't let them see.
Let it go.
Well, you know how she was before she let it go? She was like, you know, you got to keep it all in, never be. You're truly spiritual, nothing will get to you. You're just this perfect little fucking non-feeling, unemotional thing. But like, from my experience, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it was right for me. If I didn't sit through the pain, if I didn't sit through the awkward parts of confronting parts of myself that I wasn't proud of, it would still be with me. It was like the experience.
Yeah.
As soon as I just surrendered to it, it just went.
Yeah.
So I know that that's what I've got to do. And I only just learned that in the last year. I'm 43. So and I smashed my head on so many walls along the way to learn that.
Right.
But I'm just wondering, what's your take on kind of writing out that dark sort of patch, which is
no, you're spot on. You and I are on the same page. And what I would say is early on in my own journey, when I started this practice of unconditional laughter, and I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense because I'm in a shit show right now. There's nothing funny. But the practice of intentional laughter helped me to but become an observer of the emotional body. So here's my experience, and now I'm going to go, ha, 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 ha. I feel like a total faker here. Like, this is not congruent. But what it did is it developed this mastery of, here's this emotional body, and this emotional body has intelligence, and we don't use it. So when we choose to go, ha, 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 we're building a muscle of choice in our emotional body. But here's the rest of that is what I discovered is that the emotional body of, like, the human has an energy body, a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body. Those are arbitrary distinctions. But anyway, I'm just speaking to the emotions for a second. All of the emotions have incredible intelligence. And so once we learn how to relate to them in a different way, there's intelligence that comes unlocked. And that's what you're experiencing. So feeling it fully is the way to go in and go, there's intelligence here in the feeling. If I suppress it, deny it, and avoid the feeling, I miss out on this vast reservoir of intelligence that's bound up in this emotion that actually is required for my creative process. And you miss all the clues. So my kind of meta cosmic perspective on play and all that is, it's not about feeling like, yay, I'm in despair today. Like, you can't, that's not how it works. However, as we evolve, we develop the capacity to hold a paradox and to hold the possibility that my life is always unfolding perfectly because I'm evolution in action. I'm a verb. There's never a mistake in nature. So therefore, whatever my experience is must be right. So, okay, everything is right. And simultaneously be in the human experience that says, but no, this is very, very wrong. You don't understand how wrong this is. No, this is really wrong. And my emotions are letting me know. So I call it my sewing machine metaphor, because when I was a little kid, my mom loved to sew. She sewed our clothes. She loved sewing. And I remember being, this high, looking up at the sewing machine and seeing the machine with the needle going, and she would take 2 pieces of fabric and put them in the machine, press the little gas pedal, and out would come this thing that had been created, like a whole new piece out of scraps of fabric. Like she created something new. And so there was the mystery, because I could see the thread up here and I could see the needle, but then it would go down into the dark. What happened there? Because when it came up, somehow the cloth was sticking together. Like, what happens in the darkness? What's going on? Well, we know that there's a bobbin in the sewing machine that has another spool of thread, and the technology, whoever invented it, brilliant, it does it in such a way that it weaves it together. So it's my sewing machine analogy, to speak to what your question was, that, for example, in my events, we stand up and we do this embodiment exercise to feel it in the body, of the necessity of dipping into the darkness, because that's the needle dropping down to pick up the intelligence that's there, bring it back up, and in the up and down, up and down, up and down. That's how seams are created that stitch the tapestry of our creations. And if we only had a needle that used the top thread, the cloth wouldn't stick together. We have no clothing, we have nothing from that. So the darkness feels shitty, but there is a place inside of us that can hold the perspective that, oh, the body, the emotions, the system is going into darkness now. Cool, there's some intelligence to be gleaned from this. I'm going to allow myself to feel it all the way, because I'm not going to die. I just have to feel it for a little while. It really sucks when I'm in it. And when I come out, I will have released and revealed something that I didn't know about before, because it was buried in the darkness. So spelunking, game on, let's go, dive in, get your tissues, go, right? So that's a long answer, but yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's such an awesome analogy. How old were you when you worked that out?
I think in terms of more of a metaphysical creative analogy, that's come in the last 10 or 12 years probably. But, I was watching my mom sew all the time when I was little. So.
Oh, I thought you cracked it back then when you were a kid.
I know. Wouldn't that be amazing? That would be very advanced. No, not then. My life would have been so different had I known that then. I'm just going to embrace darkness at the age of 4. Like, what? No, my path was set up to unconsciously wade in a lot of darkness before I could figure out there was a different way of relating to it. So I could have a lot of expertise in wallowing in the shadow. So, yeah.
It's funny that, isn't it? Like, I find all the people that are brilliant at what they do have had to experience a lot of darkness. Right?
Yeah. I think of it as, I've often heard the phrase Earth is a school for the soul or whatever. And I don't really love that language, but there is a way in which there is no other university degree that could ever have taught the stuff that I came to work out in this lifetime through direct experience of, like, why does this suck? And I'm intensely curious about everything. And so once I had kind of this awakening to, like, wait a minute, there's a different way to play this human thing. Well, I've done this. What else is possible? Okay. And then start deconstructing it. It has been this glorious university of discovering, like, I don't know, like when my son was 4, I was talking to him about kind of from a deeper level, because he's always had this old soul kind of presence. So I was asking him kind of from a soul level, is there anything that you need to develop in this lifetime as a human? As your mom, is there anything that you want me to know? And he was 4 and he's like, yep, Mom, I want you to tell me everything. I want you to tell me, why do bad people do bad things? Why do good people do good things? What motivates, he didn't use the word motivate, but why do people do what they do? I want you to tell me everything, Mom. And I was blown away. Here's this 4-year-old and like, okay, we will do that. But it's the reason I bring that in is it's like the same questions that have always, not always, but in these last 15 years driven me. Like, what does make the human experience what it is? Really? Because if we can crack the code of what are the laws of nature that keep the earth spinning on its axis in a solar system, there's got to be a way of functioning as a human that also lets me feel like I'm spinning on my axis in the orbit instead of colliding into the rings of Saturn and blowing up. Like, what is that?
That's a good question, Anne.
Right. So those are the questions that drive me, but it's that same thing. Like, why do people do what they do? Why do they do good things? Why do they do bad things? And just bringing that intense curiosity to, okay, what does this mean? Without judgment, without just bringing curiosity, like, what is going on? What is really going on? So, So inevitably, the only answer then that could emerge from that, all these years that I've been in that inquiry is joy. Like, well, if we actually orient to our solar system orbit, that's who we're here to be. We have the compass, we have the roadmap. It's all embedded in where we come alive, where we feel joy. So prioritize that, and everything else clicks into alignment. And of course, that's the great cosmic joke, is society is like, joy? No, sorry, that has no value. No, right? And so we make it hard for ourselves. But, as you wake up and go, oh, I get it. I cracked the code of the game. Then you pop out of the matrix and you get to be sovereign and do your thing.
Right. Because it's going back to your frequency thing. Joy is the highest frequency, isn't it?
Yeah, joy, bliss, ecstasy. There's octaves. There's octaves.
The game, basically.
That's right. I'm sure, octaves that I haven't directly experienced too. David Hawkins has the scale of consciousness that goes up and up, up and up and up. So yeah, there's a tiny percentage of individuals in history who've probably gone way beyond. But yes, ecstasy, bliss, joy, and they all come from a foundation of love. Like, we've got to have that conversation to access those, which is a whole other discussion. But yes, it's all there. It's all there. Yeah.
Joy. That's all we need.
The divine bucket. Just go.
The divine bucket to the joy. It's not joy. Just say fuck it.
Just fuck it. We try too hard to figure it out, get it right. Just fuck it.
It's boring, isn't it? Gosh, it's boring. Trying and efforting. It's so boring.
When you just fuck it, you know what to do. And sometimes you clean your fridge first and you just know what to do.
You do.